I am Kartina Arifin, your moderator for IBFIM's MCO webinar with a very special guest brought to you all the way from International Monetary Fund, IMF, Washington, DC. Before I introduce you to our guest speaker, let me bring your thoughts to our current situation. You and I, all of us, we are currently confined within our four walls. We were told to stay home, we were asked to stay home, and we have no choice but to stay home in order to be safe. And it has been more than 30 days since many of us started distancing ourselves from the office. Believe it or not, we found ourselves affected professionally, emotionally, and physically, especially since our working environment and our personal lives can no longer be separated physically. So you have at one hand the need to hold on to your gadget because your conscience tells you that you have deadlines at the office, and you have, on the other hand, the need to attend to errands at home. We are silently adjusting uncomfortably to this new life. We have with us today an IMF representative who happens to be very close to our hearts, a reputable Malaysian, Mr. Abdullah Haron. He is currently residing in Washington, DC, United States of America, a country that has currently the highest number of positive COVID-19 cases, and a country whose citizens hold protests on the street, seeking for freedom to work rather than staying at home. For the ones who are unfamiliar to his name, Abdullah Haron is a senior financial sector expert with the IMF. He has been with the IMF since 2016. And prior to the IMF, he was a reviewer with the Central Bank of UAE for 3 years. And even before that, he was a Assistant Secretary General with the Islamic Financial Services Board, IFSB, for 9 years. To make a summary of his achievements and contributions in 2 minutes would do injustice to him. So I shall leave his profile on the page for you to ponder. Okay, on a personal note, Abdullah Haron, he's a hardcore traveler, an avid traveler. When he's not traveling for work, he travels for leisure. Suffice to say that this pandemic has crippled him in many ways. So let's hear from him on how he copes with working from home. Just to let you know that this is going to be a Q&A session, free and easy. I will be asking him some professional questions. I will also be asking him some personal questions. So at the end of the session, we will open the chat section for you to type in. For you to type in any kind of question at all to him. I will read the chat and I will post the questions to him. Okay. Assalamualaikum, Abdullah.
Waalaikumsalam, Katina, and to salam to everyone also in the webinar now.
Thank you for staying up at night to speak to all of us here in Malaysia and everywhere around the world.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, as a start, could you kindly share with us the IMF's role in Islamic finance? And can you just let us know what is your role in assisting the IMF to achieve its vision in Islamic finance?
In Islamic finance, as most of us are not aware, even myself, when before I joined the fund engagement in Islamic finance actually dated back in 1980s.
Okay.
During that time, actually, the fund has provided or published, I would say, a number of conceptual working papers that helped shape the Islamic banking. And in fact, the first technical assistance provided by the fund is actually in the second half of the 1990s, and mostly in the countries with relatively established Islamic banking practices, for example, Iran, Pakistan, Sudan, and for your information, actually, when Sudan was established, the Musharaka contract where you fund the government needs at that time. Actually, the initial paper actually was published by the IMF. If you recall, it was by the late Dr. Sundararajan, which we have been working closely before. And at that time, the involvement of the fund is actually more on the capital market, and the significant TA on the banking sector, legal, regulatory aspect, it's only active actually in the mid 2005, following the establishment of the IFSB. And in fact, the IFSB actually is one of the brainchild of the IMF at that time. So that's why that's what the first involvement. And the other involvement of the fund is actually when the Islamic banking issues emerging. So they have been increasingly facing issues related to surveillance work. For example, in the financial sector assessment program, and also the Article 4 missions. So this, for those who are not familiar with the financial sector assessment program, is basically, at the request of the regulators, the fund go to the country and then do the assessment based on the Basel framework, IOSCO, as well as the IAS. And now it includes, the assessment of the IFSB. So those are basically, I would say, the initial involvement of the fund. And following that, there are a number of technical assistance requested by the countries. So this is where more and more assistance that we provided since the IMF recognized the IFSP framework. This about 3 years ago. So with respect to my involvement, as you want to know, actually when I joined the IMF in 2016, my first role is actually to help the IMF to present the paper to the board. So this is where we prepare and justify on the need to look at or to assess the Islamic banking around the world. So that is my first involvement in terms of the Islamic finance here. So following that, the IMF actually recognized, saying that Islamic finance is actually now systemically important in certain countries, and for that reason, they said that we are going to allocate some of our fund to work on the Islamic finance work. Then once that the board paper has been approved by the board, now come to the task of looking at technical assistance as required. So that's where I came into the picture as coordinating the technical assistance in some of the countries. So this is the second second stage where my involvement started last year. So now I'm coordinating all the Islamic finance activities around the world. On top of that, my involvement is actually to coordinate all the activities, all technical assistance activities by the MENA, or I would say Middle East and North Africa, plus other countries that have an interest on Islamic finance. So those are basically, my involvement right now when it comes to the Islamic finance at this point.
Are you alone in doing this, or do you have a dedicated department for Islamic finance?
No, basically, I'm the one. I'm actually alone coordinating all these things. But then again, we have some expert in various departments and division. So if there is not, when we don't have the capacity to help internally, that's where I start looking for the short-term expert around the world who has that similar capacity. So that's why you can see I start calling the experts. I start calling the central bank if they want to share some of these expert to join us in a number of missions.
So that makes sense, because I've seen people putting in their Facebook saying that I'm on an IMF mission with Abdullah Haron, I'm on IMF mission with Abdullah Haron. So I'm assuming that this is not a permanent arrangement with these central bankers.
No. We don't have that permanent Islamic finance expert. Even for my case, I'm coordinating the Islamic finance. But then again, all the other works are actually are assisted by all the experts around, within the IMF as well as the short-term expert. So basically, we engage more short-term expert because the need of the country varies from one to another. Some of them they want to have a regulation. Some of them they want the stress testing. So that's why we don't really need to have like so many experts in the organization.
Okay. So I understand that you travel a lot. Anyone who follows your Facebook would know that you're always on the plane, not at home. So can I assume that you travel perhaps average twice a month? That makes it 24 times in a year. So what do you do in these countries that you visit?
Okay, maybe in the past, I travel quite often, but our engagement in the country when we provide the technical assistance nowadays, actually, we stay in the country at least 2 or 3 weeks, because what happened is that when we go to the countries, we prepare the report, we do everything. So before we leave the country, we make sure that all our recommendations are tabled before we leave, so that we can have a discussion. So that is why you can see the travel is getting less and less, but the involvement or the engagement with the countries actually is more more broadened and depth in that sense.
Okay. So relating to COVID-19, I'm going to bring you back to this current issue that we have. So when was the day you were instructed to work from home due to COVID-19, and how long has it been?
Okay. As you may recall, I think in early February, when the China after the Lunar New Year, they said that they are going to extend the leave for the people to go back to work, to celebrate. And before it opened, actually, we have that window of opportunities for 2 weeks for us to strategize what's going to happen when China start opening it. So that is where I think it's the beginning of February until middle of February, I would say. So that's why when I was in Malaysia in the end of January, actually I'm so nervous whether I can enter or not, the US. So that is where the period that we actually we stand by. So during that 2 weeks period, we have already mobilized our staff and division and department within the organization. We have established all this crisis management team. We have already educated some of the staff how to use all the the infrastructure, etc. Come February 14, that is where the starting of the China start opening up, and we suspect that the market will crash, blah blah blah, and then we thought then we start looking at whether it has an implication in other countries. As for your information, the first I think the first COVID positive is actually, if I'm not mistaken, in Thailand.
Okay.
And the first death outside China is actually in Philippines.
Okay.
Then we start realizing that this then suddenly all other countries start reporting it. Actually, we follow closely John Hopkins COVID map. So now it's like becoming an official reference of all this statistic now. Yeah. So that is where then we start looking at come in March, then we decided I think for the safety of the staff, then the MD said we start working from home. Initially, it was only for example, I think for 1 day, and then they said 1 week, something like that. And then the MD said, we are going to work from home until you are told to come back.
Wow,
that is like indefinite. So that's why the preparation before the market in China open, we start all the necessary infrastructure. We establish all the crisis management team, etc. So this is where they have already thought the worst case scenario before it actually happened. So
Okay.
from then onwards, actually it has been like what now is like 2 months already for us,
Two
and then we
months
are going to
already.
so we are going to continue for another month. So by
Okay.
end of June, by end of May, we are going to decide whether we're going to continue or not.
Okay, this is interesting.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm gonna ask you how's your working arrangement like with the fund? Are you required to report to them on an hourly basis, daily basis, or no reporting is required? How do they ensure that you are still okay
Okay, in what sense? In my work or in my life or what?
in your work, in your life? I'm sure they are interested
Yeah.
to know since everyone's not in the office. So how
Okay.
frequently you report to the office?
We have like what we call it a weekly meeting.
Okay,
So we have like like WebEx like this every Thursday,
okay.
where we discuss about every single things,
Mm,
like about the work, about the life,
okay,
and like second meeting during the week we have some games among the staff.
okay.
So that's why to keep everybody's like get to interact with each other. So that's how we get involved.
Okay, so you don't go into the office at all since
We
the
we are not allowed to go to the office. Even if we want to
okay.
go to the office now, we are not permitted to do so, even though we are staff now.
Okay. So I'm
Yeah,
sure I just need to know about IMF's initiatives, if you're aware of it.
yeah.
With this crisis going on for an indefinite time, like you mentioned,
Yep.
measures must have been brewing in the IMF as well as to how to assist countries post COVID-19. So can you share with us some of the fund's initiatives for emerging market post COVID-19?
I think you may have also heard like what are the measures taken by the fund.
Okay.
As you know, the fund actually play as a lender of the last resort for the
Right.
countries. So we have the capacity to lend to the countries with $1 trillion. But
Okay.
then again, it's like broken down into a number of products that we are offering. So
Okay.
that's why you can see that some of the countries, like for the low income countries, we provide
Okay.
rapid financing facility,
Okay.
whereby with the moment they apply, so we
Mm.
review it within probably like within 10 days. So we send the money straight. So some
I
of these
see.
poor countries, like I said, based on the 0% interest or something. So
Okay.
it depends on the country's category. So some of the countries, for example, the advanced countries, they may need liquidity facility. So there is
Okay.
another product that is created by the fund. So
Okay.
they are being provided with that kind of facility. So in terms of the work that like the work that we process, even though we work from home,
Right.
actually the process is actually quite. I myself is actually is amazed, how the system works within the fund,
Okay.
one, the IT system itself
Mm.
is actually, you can have the meeting with for example, on the first day of our work from home, we have like
Okay.
100 meetings. So it surprised
100 meetings.
everybody.
Okay.
100 separate meetings,
Okay. Within the
for different
internal staff.
within the internal staff, the
Okay.
organization itself. So we have 100 meetings. So you can imagine that one meeting sometimes involve the internal staff, and some of the
Okay.
meetings involved with the countries. So
Okay.
in one day, actually on the first day, actually we have experienced a challenge with the IT. Now we
Okay.
move all our like our communication is actually on cloud now, so it make
Okay.
life easier. So this morning we had what do you call the town hall. So the
Okay.
MD spoke, and then we have like about close to 2,000 staff
Okay.
joining the WebEx like this.
I
So
see.
we don't have any issue.
Okay. Talking about this working arrangement, because this is new in Malaysia, this is
Yeah.
new. Many of us have not started working from home before this. We've never tried it. So I myself found that many people find it really difficult to separate between their working lives and the personal life. Like the boss, because the boss now, he or she knows that he can have access to you via WhatsApp, via online gadgets. So Does your boss, the IMF bosses, disturb the staff post 5:30 p.m. or is it constantly? Do you find it challenging to actually work 24 hours? Because we have this situation in Malaysia.
Yeah. Okay. When we first work from home, the HR actually amend the staff policies
roles.
actually,
Okay.
the staff roles. They said there is no 9 to 5. So
Okay.
you are expected to work based on the what is like what you are committed to do, because
Really?
because the way we do the work here, okay, the
Okay.
boss will ask you, what do you want to do this month? So we tell them this
Okay.
is what we want to do, because at the end of the day, at the end of the month, for example, like tomorrow on Friday, so what we are supposed to do, we put in the system how much
Okay.
hour that we work on certain projects, and then from there on they record it, they will see what we work.
Okay, so this is for
Yeah.
contractual, for project basis. I guess it should be easy. For as long as you
Yeah.
finish your project, it should be easy. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move to a little bit of a personal questions. Okay. Let me ask you. I had a call with you yesterday, and
Mm-hmm.
many of you who's listening right now, you may be not aware that Abdullah Haron is single. So when I had a call with him yesterday, I heard a voice at the background. It's a lady's voice. So I asked him, who is that? He said it's a machine. Then that's when he told me that it's an artificial intelligence system in his house. So by the name of Alexa, by the way, it's not Amina, it's not Siti, but it's Alexa. So can you tell us a little bit, Abdullah, about Alexa? Is she a walking robot, or is it just a machine static at one corner of your house?
Oh, well, it's just like Alexa is just like like a clock on the table. But
Okay.
then this is actually a product of Amazon. So
Okay.
basically, it's very sensitive. The moment you mention the name, it's already trigger. What do I want? So
Oh,
basically,
okay.
you can just ask her.
Her.
Yeah, it's her. I call it her.
Okay.
because what happened is that I've already because it's connected to the internet, so you can
Okay.
just ask Alexa, like
Okay.
about the prayer time, about the
Okay.
weather, anything, see, you ask.
What did she say?
So
What did she say?
no, when I asked the time, then she told me that like the time is 11:23 already. So
Ah, okay. Okay.
so basically it's how you program it, So
Okay.
so it's kind of handy for me, because whenever you are too lazy to write, so you ask her to to record whatever that you want them to record,
So you
and it's
mentioned,
also
okay, great. Go ahead, go
yeah.
ahead.
So basically it's just like like a Siri in the iPhone,
Okay.
but then again this is a kind of like handy, because they record everything that you want them to record, and even if you want to leave the house also, you want them to guard the house, they will tell
Okay.
you, like if anything, like any movement in the house, or if there is anything that give a noise, then they will
Okay.
trigger your phone. So
Okay.
basically it's just
It's just a machine.
like a Siri. Yeah, it's a machine.
Okay. Why am I interested in Alexa is because I wonder if the existence of Alexa during this restricted movement order, whether it helps you mentally or stability, because we read many articles that we need to be aware of our mental and emotional stability. So initially I had in mind that this Alexa is a walking robot. So I don't suppose you recommend that single people acquire this Alexa,
No,
or do you think it will be helpful at all?
no, I don't think so.
Okay, so how do you maintain your emotional and mental stability while being
Oh,
cooped up in a house alone with a machine?
no, I think no. The thing is that when we work from home, is actually is a not a new it's not a new thing for us, because when
Okay,
we during the normal business hours, what happened
okay,
is that if you want to work from home, you just put in your system that today I
okay,
want to work from home, because
right,
the management, they don't really like care where you want to work, as long as you
okay,
deliver.
okay,
So at the end of the day, the system will alert you that like
okay,
you have to deliver something at certain time. So because of that, I think for us, we don't really care where we work. And in fact, if I
okay,
want to work now in Malaysia, I can do so. But then again, because I cannot, I cannot
Leave the country.
go because what happened is that there's no airlines, and even if I want to come back, then I have a problem, or to be admitted to the US back. So that is the constraint that I have.
Can you just roughly share with us your daily routine since you started working from home? What do you do?
Basically, we have a morning briefing, for example, at 8 o'clock. So we have a briefing by the IMF which are stationed in different parts of the world. So they update us what's happening on the market in that particular countries. We have in Singapore, we have Hong Kong, China, in UK, and a few others. So they provide the updates on what's happening. And sometimes, when they heard any rumors or something, this is where they share what's happening, like in that particular jurisdiction. Then sometimes, like if I have a meeting with some countries in Africa, so sometimes we start like 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, something like that. So we start our meeting in the morning.
Oh, in the
so
morning.
because what happened is that in Africa, they already, noon already. So that's why for us, we have to accommodate the timing. So for that reason, we have to be mindful, the timing of other countries as well. So it depends on the countries where we are. Sometimes what happens is that, we have sometimes the workshop like 5 o'clock in the morning or so. So we have to be adjust. So the work is actually increasing right now. And because of that, we have to be, there's no 9 to 5 anymore. It's like, within 24 hours, you have to manage your time. So that's why during the day, sometimes when the sun is shining, then the boss said, go out, enjoy something outside. So
really?
don't yeah. So that is kind of a flexibility that we have in the fund.
Okay, I'm seeing a lot of questions popping up. Yeah, eager to ask you. I just have one last question for you. Okay, being someone with a lot of information, a lot of experiences in Malaysia's Islamic finance industry, as well as someone who has seen how other countries fare in the growth development of Islamic finance, what are your personal thoughts on how our local institutions should deal with? How do you think we should deal with the aftermath of COVID-19? What changes do you think we should do? What changes
this is my personal view, because I think Malaysia has been recognized as the Islamic finance leader. You have all the necessary infrastructure. You have all the necessary expertise required. But I think what really like the turning point after the COVID is actually the deliverability. In terms of like the business model is changing. People, the business may be like everything's go online. Banking may be like moving online. So these are the kind of thing. So this kind of like it's like a reset button in terms of the deliverable of Islamic finance. So how does the countries provide that kind of infrastructure? How does the country provide the expertise? Because this is something like I think quite new to everybody, because all this while we keep talking about the fintech. Now it's actually accelerating. The COVID is actually accelerating the need to have this kind of fintech. Before this, people are talking about what digital currency, blah blah blah, and now things are becoming like at the forefront already. And in fact, as for if I'm not mistaken, Libra was like something that all the countries are against. I think one of the country now is like working together with Facebook, trying to how we want to adapt Libra in that particular jurisdiction. So this is where I think the changing that will take place following this COVID. So I think for us in Malaysia, I think we have to think, like outside Malaysia now. How does the like the Islamic finance can how does the expertise in Malaysia together with the infrastructure that we have will benefit outside, because now it's like a reset button. So it's like everybody can compete at the same level playing field. If you have the necessary IT infrastructure, I think you will be like moving very fast. And
All right.
one other thing is, I think, in the sense that like to access the capital, the funding for the individuals, for the company to access the financing from the banks may be very difficult. So this is
Okay.
where the crowdfunding, like platform is actually, I think, is like something that people will look at, because in terms of the crowdfunding, like this kind of crowdfunding facility or platform, people will just go there because it's like for them it's easy in
Right.
terms of getting the necessary approval.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm seeing a lot of questions from the
Okay.
floor. So
Yeah.
now I would like to open the floor for all participants to pose any question at all. You may ask him professional question. You may ask him personal question. If he feels like answering them all, it's up to him. If he wants to skip, he will let me know. So I'm gonna read the chat. So feel free to type in. Okay. Let me read the first question. This is interesting. The very first question. Mr. Abdullah, how do I get a job in the IMF?
I think
Outside of F1.
okay. If you go to the IMF recruitment, you can like actually post your CV
Resume?
or the resume, and
Okay.
if there is any vacancy that fit your background, then they will contact you. So that is,
Okay.
I think that is the first step actually.
Okay.
Yeah. As for your information, the average age of the staff in the IMF is between 45 to 47.
Okay.
So that is the level, the average age. But don't be disappointed, because some of the graduates, the fresh graduate, when they enter the IMF, they enter as like economic. They call it economist program. So this
Okay.
is where they in other words, what we call in Malaysia is like management training. So they will put you
Okay.
in different department
Okay.
to work with the experts in different field. So until they are comfortable with certain areas, then they can
Okay.
decide. But to get this program is actually like per year.
Okay.
They opened the program for 22 positions, but last year, if I'm not mistaken, the application is actually about 700.
Okay. So
So there, you have to fight, with the position with the rest of the world, so
okay.
that is the situation. As
Can
for your
can we can we
information,
send
even
can we send the
yes,
resume to you directly?
no, I can't, because everything is processed by independently by the HR. So
Okay.
which we don't have any say or at all on that.
Okay. Okay, the next question. COVID-19 is affecting the current business model. So what would be your advice for corporate business trainers like us, the new skills to acquire in order for us to equip ourselves with future training modules?
Okay. For us also, even at the fund, we are now moving to online kind of training already, because you cannot travel to the country, and because of that, we ourselves is actually struggling. So that's why we discussed, I think last week,
Okay.
like we are thinking maybe going forward, I think this is going to be the new normal for us. So I think for
Okay.
the business model for the trainers is going to be online training,
Okay.
and even if you provide the technical assistance, so it's
Okay.
going to be something that related to the online.
Okay. Okay. This is a very personal question. How do you keep yourself very young, Mr. Abdullah?
How do I keep? You have to
Yeah.
enjoy your life.
Okay. Do you want to share with them how old you are?
Well, I'm 51.
Okay. So how do you, other than enjoying your life, do you take a specific, you know, anything? Do you keep
No,
anything?
I think just enjoying life. Travel whenever I feel like I want to travel. So
Okay.
so that is basically like what I do.
Okay.
And you have to take take life. So even if you face any stressful situation, just cool
Okay.
down. Yeah, sleep.
Okay. For the next question, for the SMEs, and in various industry, when is the prediction that the business or economy will recover,
Okay.
will bounce
I,
back?
yeah, because first of all, we do not know, when is the post right now, because we are
Right.
actually in the middle of the pandemic. So that is
Okay.
the situation that we are facing now. So
Okay.
based on our analysis, you can go through the IMF website, whereby
Okay.
we produced the World Economic Report last week.
Okay.
We are forecasting on average, this economy will recover in
Okay.
2021.
Okay.
Presumably, this COVID is over in the next quarter, which is like
Okay.
after June. So if the situation continue, definitely, like it's going to be like prolonged further.
Okay.
There was a research done actually. Is it
Okay.
going to be like V recovery, U recovery, or L? So this is
Okay.
actually, it depends on when actually first on the vaccine that is going to be available. Secondly, whether everybody has been tested,
Right.
and this is where how long, or how deep the crisis is going to be affecting the economy right now. So that's why there are so many variables. So we
Okay.
wouldn't know when it's going to be recovering actually.
Okay.
Yeah,
The
because
next question.
if you notice in the in the 2007 crisis,
Right.
actually you only feel it 2009
Right.
that is actually recovering. That is a financial crisis. Now we are actually facing the health crisis. It's not a financial crisis. So you have the
Okay.
health crisis. It reached the economic crisis. So I'm afraid that once you reach the like financial crisis, it's going to be very long.
Okay. Somebody is actually asking something relating to the 2008 financial crisis. So, what is
Mm.
your opinion on the impact to social finance? As some say that the impact will be worse than 2008 crisis.
Yeah, I think because this is my personal view. It's not the view of the fund. So
Okay.
basically, in the financial crisis in 2008, it's actually just purely a financial crisis. Here we are facing the health crisis. So that's why we want.
It will eventually lead to economic and social
Exactly,
consequences, right?
exactly. That is the that is where is this is what we call it. It's going to be like one of the worst crises that you can imagine,
Okay.
as far as you remember, because even if you look at the impact or the consequences of this crisis, actually is actually the worst compared to other crises previously. That's why
Okay.
you have the term, we call it Great Depression. So
Okay.
now the IMF term it the Great Lockdown now. So it will be remembered in the history we are
Okay.
facing a great lockdown.
Okay. Somebody is asking about USA. Why do you think America is having such
Mhm.
a hard time to control the pandemic?
Okay, I think it relates to what they call it, like the leadership. I think maybe uh, in terms of the control of the power, because here each state has their own power.
Okay.
It's not reside on the president. The
Okay.
president, even though they have a say, but then
Okay.
again, the final decision actually rests with the governors. So that's why in other countries, like when you see China,
Right.
once the president say, so everybody has
Okay.
to follow. Here, if the president say, if the governors does not agree, you cannot implement it.
Okay.
So that's why you can see that things are moving very slow. So the
Okay.
president can only provide like some guidance to the governors, and it's up
Okay.
to the governors to decide when they're going to remove the lockdown, when they want to do anything. So that is the issue that we are facing here.
Okay. So we have a question from someone who is
Hmm.
interested to start business during this COVID
Uh,
period. So he says here, Assalamualaikum. I have a question. In the midst of this COVID-19, can you recommend any ideas for any individuals who want to start business? What kind of business do you think people should start during this period of time?
I don't even know. I'm not a businessman.
Okay.
So what I do is like I'm an investor. Sorry.
Okay.
So if you don't have anything to do, just go to. For me, I go to the stock market. So the other day when my nephew said he was so bored at home, so I told him, why don't we play the like the share? So I teach him how to use it, how to read the market. So that's why now like I don't know what he's doing now. So in terms of the business, I think I'm not in position to to give any suggestion or anything.
Okay. So the next question: what's your personal opinion about how well Malaysia can recover? How soon? How well? And how we can actually survive this period? Your personal opinion.
I guess you guys knows better than me because I'm living like like the other part of the world.
No, but you're in the IMF. You're the guy in the IMF. You know us better than we know us, So,
yeah. But I think looking at the from the what happened in the countries with all these fiscal measure, financial measures, I think Malaysia can weather the situation, but whether this is going to be sustainable, this is something a question that we have to ask ourselves when the government is going to to remove this lockdown kind of thing. So that's why now, if you notice in the US, people are struggling to go back to work because the more the more they are staying at home, they're going to be having a problem with the economy as a country or as a state and individually. Because right now, as you see, the unemployment in the US, there are about 22 million jobless.
Right.
And we have about 300 million here. So you can imagine the percentage. And this number is expected to go up further the more the country remain in lockdown. And the last figure that was estimated is it's about 36 million, if you want to prolong it until June, for example. So that is the situation.
Okay. I'm just going through because I have many questions. So I try to address as many questions as we can because it's difficult to get you online. And I think everyone is eager to hear from you. So do you see this pandemic as an advantage to boost Islamic finance to be at par with conventional?
I'm not so sure whether because like this COVID has no religion. So because of that, like it affect the the underlying of the economy itself. So what I see is going to happen is that in order to address the funding gap, the fiscal or this thing of the country, I think what's going to happen is actually sukuk is actually one of the things that is going to be like booming.
Okay.
And because of that, also, you see the interest rate in most countries are actually at the lowest level. So for them to issue sukuk, so this is the great, the good opportunity that I see is going to happen after this, following this COVID. So the benefit is there. And secondly, because some of these countries actually, as I mentioned earlier, it's like a reset button for everybody. So if the country is actually in favor of the Islamic finance, this is actually the best time for them to introduce Islamic finance in whatever area they want to be. Because everybody's like looking for, how do we go back to the new normal?
Okay.
So
so what is your opinion on the suggestion made by the European Commission President to issue a perpetual bond for the value of 1 trillion euro?
I'm not so sure. Like
Nak fikir macam
I know the issue there, but then again, there are some countries, some countries within the euro
beli
is actually not in favor of this kind of bond issuance,
nak makan apa?
Okay.
and even like some of this young generation actually in Europe, they are not
Okay.
even in favor of any issuance because they said you are robbing our future.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it's actually the future generation is going to pay this perpetual bond. So that's why like whether you want to satisfy the current gap or
Okay.
you want to rob the future generation money to pay this particular bond. So it's a very tricky question. I don't have the
Okay.
answer, the exact answer.
Okay.
It's an arts rather than science on this aspect.
Okay. So I think we have exceeded our half an hour slot because we only have half an hour for you.
Okay.
Just a second. Due to time constraints, so we will be ending our Q&A session here. Thank you all. Okay, Abdullah. So what would be your parting advice for our participants today?
I think just one one thing that I noticed emerging from this COVID actually. People or the organization are not ready of the continuity in terms of the business continuity, even
Right.
for us also as an individual. So this is something like for us to ponder.
Right.
Like everybody's like talking about you need to have a cash reserve for 6 months individually, so in case anything happen. So are we ready? Some of us actually only have like half of the month, something like that. So
Right.
this is something that we need to think about. The same with the organization, business continuity. So
Okay.
because we already have the business continuity in most of organization, but it's never been tested. So this is something that as an organization, probably they need to check, like back, how does the business continuity is actually really working.
Okay.
So that is something that I would probably we need to go back and then start start looking whether it's applicable or not in this kind of situation. It may not happen in the future, but then again, it can happen in different way or something. So that is one thing that I would say. And the other thing is that like we have as the I think in Malaysia, because we are actually at the curve, like going to be like the curve is going to be flattening. So I think for the organization right now is actually to establish a re-entry task force. So this re-entry task force is actually helping the like the organization. How do we cope with the health issue? When and what under what circumstances that we allow the staff to go back to the office? Because the business model is going to be different. Are you going to allow the alternate working option? Or what is your risk assessment in terms of the physical office, monitoring the health of the staff, reviewing the employment policies? So this is something that I think we need to look at, before life is back to normal. So that is my two takeaways that I just want to share with you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdullah. We truly appreciate your time. And on behalf of the organizing team, IBFIM, I wish you the best in everything you do. Stay safe in America. Don't walk around. Don't be too close to anyone when you're on the street. And with this, we have come to the end of our session. I would like to wish everyone who is listening, near or far, wherever you are, a calm and composed self. We will, inshallah, come out of this situation safely. COVID-19, inshallah, will eventually be a thing in the past. Here's wishing you a very blessed and fruitful Ramadan. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay calm wherever you are. And please do not forget to register in our next webinar series, as you can see on the slide. And before everyone leaves this meeting room, may I request for everyone to switch on your video, all of you, so that we will be able to see each other and take a group photo for memory keeping. This is your chance to take a picture with Abdullah Haron, so very far away from us. Okay, would you like to, can we have the picture of everyone? And the one who's gonna take a picture, kindly please let us know when you are ready to snap and when we can everyone go. Do we already have a picture? We have many messages wishing everyone Ramadan Kareem. Tomorrow, inshallah, Malaysia will be fasting. And I'm not sure about Washington. When do you think you'll fast? Is it tomorrow?
Friday as well. We have already determined next year, fasting already.
Okay. So may I get confirmation from the organizing team whether we already have a picture of everyone? I don't want to keep everyone too long on the screen because I think it's already very, very late at night for Abdullah Haron. Okay, so I think this will be it. This will be it. I wish you all of you well. May Allah bless you everywhere you are. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.